So we do want to let you know, well, we'll kind of get into that in a second. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time to share where you're joining us from in the chat box, as well as what grade levels you teach. So welcome to CodeMonkey's third webinar for our back to school season. Open hours, basically this time is for you to be able to ask us questions. So the CodeMonkey team wants to thank you so much for joining us for our webinar. We know that your time is limited and that everything is just not normal during these times. So our goal today is to make sure that you're getting what you need out of today's webinar to help you prepare to teach CodeMonkey with your students. The office hours session is really based around the questions we've received from you, and we know that teachers who are new and returning teachers to CodeMonkey have some questions just while you get started with the back to school season. We also know that you're using CodeMonkey differently, whether in person or through distance learning, or maybe even through those hybrid models. So you might be just looking to learn a little bit more about the platform and how it can work to accommodate all of those situations. We also want to give you an opportunity to become more familiarized with the platform that it offers you as a teacher. So we'll go over a few of the main features, mainly the ones we've been getting those burning questions about, and that might be most helpful for you. But mostly we want to be able to hear from you. So at the end of today's session, we will actually give you the ability to hop on the mic and ask us some live questions. We've also taken your questions from your registrations, and we hope to answer those as well at the end of today's webinar. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So today is an open office hours with CodeMonkey. You can always follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, as well as our blog. So we'll actually dive a little bit deeper into our blog here today at the end of today's webinar session. Today we're gonna be working with, there's three of us here from the team. My name is Lena Saleh, and I'm the Professional Development and Sales Manager here at CodeMonkey, and I've been with CodeMonkey for about 2.5 years now. I'll pass it off to my other panelists.
Hi all, this is Talia here. I'm happy to be here and help and show you a bit around and answer your questions. I'm hoping that questions that we answer for some of you will also help the others. And also, you know, if you have more specific questions and if you won't get your answers during this session, we'd be happy to continue the conversations with you after. So I hope you enjoyed.
Hi everyone, my name is Molly Schubach and I am on the sales team here at CodeMonkey. Been with the company since the beginning of the year, but in the industry for about 6 years. So thank you for joining us today. As Lena and Talia said, we're excited to have you here and excited to answer all of the questions you have.
Great. So today during the webinar, you can also tweet at us using the hashtag that you see here at the bottom of the slide deck, hashtag CodeMonkeyWebinar. We will do our best to answer any live tweets that we have during today's webinar. We're also here to answer your questions. So any questions that you have, please place them in the Q&A box. We find sometimes in the chat box, they tend to get lost. So it's easier for us and easier for you if we can get to those questions for you. Following today's webinar, a survey will pop up. And once you take the survey, a professional development certificate will be mailed to you for your time today. So if you don't get that, just feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you out with that. So without any further ado, let's get ready to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. Oh, I forgot to do this part, but did you want me to do that? Okay, good.
I think we're good. Okay, great. So I'll take it from here. Thanks, Lena. As Lena said, please write your questions in the Q&A, and also we'll have some time at the end for live questions. So feel free to do that. We'll have this as more in an interactive session. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen now. Okay. great. If there, for any reason you're not able to see my screen, let me know. So I'm actually going to start. I want to show you a bit our newest integration that we have with Google Classrooms. This would be relevant for the ones of you who are using Google Classrooms, who already you're managing your rosters there and you're communicating with your students. So you can now import your classrooms onto CodeMonkey from Google Classrooms. And I'm just going to log into my account, and basically I would need to log in, as you see, through the Google single sign-on to the Google account that I'm also using for my Google Classrooms. So you're probably familiar with this page. This is where you have all your classrooms, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to create a new classroom. So, you know, we have the regular way of just creating a regular classroom and then connecting it to the subscription and then adding students to the classroom. So I just quickly want to show you this part. Basically, we have 3 methods for adding students. The first 2 is by creating yourselves the accounts for your students. So this might be helpful for the more younger students if you want to create accounts for them, give them usernames and passwords, and then pass it to them. So these 2 methods are for that. The third way is by sharing a class code. So this is great if you have your students joining from home. You might want them joining using their already existing accounts. If they have, if they're using Google or if they're using Clever, ClassLink, we have a few of these integrations. So you would share with them the class code and have them join your classroom through that. By the way, once you've created the accounts for your students, we have some nice methods, which I call easier access for your students to then log into their accounts. Basically, we have the login cards and the classroom login URL. Just gonna quickly show you that. So once you've already created accounts for your students, through the Students tab, you are able to share with them login cards with their username and password, or a classroom login URL where they would just click on their username, enter their password, and they're in. So this skips a few steps of writing the CodeMonkey URL and typing in their username. They just locate their username, enter their password, and they're in. So this is a great way for students to log into their accounts. And I'm going to go back to the My Classroom page because I actually really want to show you the Google Classroom options. So I'll go more into details here just because this is a new integration, but you can actually import from Google your classrooms. And this is great if you're already using Google Classrooms, or if you use Google Classrooms to as a way to communicate with your students. So we now offer you this option. So the first thing that you would need to do is to connect with Google Classroom. Basically, you would be asked to choose the Google account that you're using and basically authorize CodeMonkey to get the roster from Google Classroom. So you need to allow this, because if you won't allow it, you won't be able to do the next steps that I'm going to show you now. So I've now authorized CodeMonkey, and the next thing I would do is choose which classroom I'm looking to import. And these are classrooms I have on my Google Classrooms, okay? And those are the ones I can pick from. So I'm gonna pick my Monday class. Next thing I'm gonna do is choose to which subscription I want to connect it to. I only have one active subscription, so that's the default. And I'm gonna click on create my classroom. And after a few moments, the classroom will be imported and added to your classrooms list. You can see it right here. So a few things about that. Once I've imported my classroom, I've already imported any students that are there. So students now can just log into CodeMonkey, and we'll show you that part as well. And they're already in the classroom, can already access the courses. If you need to make any changes to your roster, you would only do it through Google Classroom. And then you can update your roster also on CodeMonkey. So I'm gonna go into the classroom now. And you can see here also the students. As you can see, I can't make any changes to the students because, as I said, these changes will be done in your roster on Google Classroom. But once you make any changes, let's say you remove a student or a student has been added to the classroom on Google Classrooms, you can always go here. You see this sync classroom option right here. So once you click on that, the classroom on CodeMonkey will be synced according to how you've updated your classroom on Google Classroom. So maybe you've changed the name and you want it to be reflected also on CodeMonkey. You would do that through the sync classroom button anytime. So that's that part. Another thing I wanted to show you is an option to also add co-teachers to your Google Classroom. So you might be already familiar with this feature. You can add any colleagues of yours as a co-teacher to your classroom. That would allow them the same managing abilities over the classroom. They can view the progress, they can assign courses, and they can also access the courses themselves. And when it comes to a Google Classroom, you're also able to import teachers, but these would only be teachers that are also teachers on your Google Classrooms on Google. So let me quickly show you. So this is my classroom on Google Classroom. So this is my Monday class, and I'm gonna go here to people just to show you that basically this is me. This is the user I'm now demoing from, Beaver Achiever, and this is my personal Gmail account. So this is the co-teacher, and these are the students which were already added, populated onto CodeMonkey. So if I want to add additional teachers, I first need to make sure that they are added on Google Classrooms, on the specific classroom. And then I can click on import from Google, and it would basically give me a drop-down menu with all the teachers who are the same teachers that I have on Google Classrooms. And then I can click to import the co-teacher. Basically, I can then share with my colleague these instructions. They would just need to log into CodeMonkey, and they'll already see this classroom under my classrooms list, and they're good to go. So that's adding your colleagues. Last thing I wanted to show you before we move on is the option to assign activities, coding adventure activities from CodeMonkey. So basically, we currently don't support assignments or any Google Classroom Stream functionality, which would basically allow any activity that your students do on CodeMonkey to show on Google Classroom. So we currently don't have that, but what we do have for the lessons feature, for which is currently available for Coding Adventure Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. You can assign specific activities from the lessons to your classroom. So in each of Coding Adventure lesson plans, there is a playtime section. So after you do the introduction, and you can assign the challenges to your students. Each lesson, of course, it varies which challenges you assign. So for example, lesson number 1, you can have the kids start at challenges 0 through 5. With this button here, Assign to Google Classroom, I can send an assignment to my classroom to play these challenges. And I'm gonna go to my classroom stream just to show you how would that look like. As you can see, I have here a new assignment. I can go to the assignment. It shows the challenges and basically the instructions. Complete 6 challenges in Coding Adventure Part 1. If the student clicks on the link, it would lead them directly to these challenges. And also you can edit this here. So any additions you want to add to this assignment, you would do on Google Classroom. So you can add more instructions, add a file. You might want to give it a due date, or you might want to assign it to just specific students. So these are all functionalities that are on Google Classroom. So I won't go into that, but you can edit your assignments on Google Classrooms. And then if you want the student to mark it as done, that's something that they would do through Google Classrooms. They have the option on Google Classrooms to mark an assignment as done. Also, they can add links and comments and so on. So that's the part I wanted to show you. And maybe before we move to the next topic, let me also just quickly share the students' side. Okay, so I'm now on the same classroom, just viewing the classroom as a student. And again, I'm going to the classrooms stream, and I can see here the assignment. Click on the assignment, I'll access the challenges. And I can also now, after the teacher has imported the classroom, the teacher, you can tell your students, you can now go ahead, log in onto CodeMonkey using your Google account. So I'm just gonna click on the Google account and choose the account that I used. And this is the account I use in this classroom as a student. Great, and now I've entered my CodeMonkey account. I can choose my avatar, and I can start playing basically just the courses that my teacher has assigned to me and assigned to my classroom. So just want to show you more of the student side of things.
And on the student side, while Talia is on this, as you can see, the courses that have been assigned to them are in the upper half of the screen, and all of the courses that are not yet available to the students or maybe haven't been assigned by you are all down below. So that's just something to kind of know. It's a newer feature that we recently added. So that's what your students see.
Right. Okay, Lena, do you want to take it from here and maybe give a few updates?
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready to give us some updates.
Okay.
So, and then we'll follow up. Nidhi will follow up with your question too. I know Molly answered it here in the chat, but we'll also follow up with that as well. So one of the updates that we have recently made to the CodeMonkey platform on the teacher side of things is how the courses appear for both students and for teachers. This feature will also soon be on the courses when you assign the courses page, but we do have a new, I guess, system for how the courses are coded. And so you'll see here the course, they're basically rated in the same way, the same scaffolding that we would suggest for students. So where they would start from the beginner courses all the way to the more advanced courses. So that's how they appear listed here. So we'll see the CodeMonkey Junior course. We can see that this is a novice course and it is block-based. And then when we move on to the Beaver Achiever course, we can see it's also block-based as well. So each one has their own banner encoding for what level we suggest the courses to be at. So for Coding Adventure, you can see this is a beginners-based course.
Lena, sorry, yeah. Lena, can you double check that you're sharing?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
You're right, I'm not sharing at all. Sorry, everybody. Okay, let's start. We'll try this again. Okay, so like I mentioned, the courses are basically from beginner to advanced, and that's how they're listed here on the screen. And you'll have a little, it'll tell you which one is block-based and then which level of coding we suggest for the students to be at in order to work on this course. That doesn't mean that they can't go to a more advanced course, you know your students best, but this is just how we recently are coding them. So you can see the block-based course for the Beaver Achiever and for the Coding Adventure. And then you can see that we say that the platform, of course, is more of an intermediate, because we do say do Coding Adventure before the game design, or however you kind of want that to go. And then the Python courses, you can see the leveling. So that's just something to kind of make it easier on your sides. We tend to have a lot of questions. And then also the students can kind of see, you know, oh, okay, this is what level we're kind of working on as well. So it's nice for them to have that little bit of extra features. So moving along from that new update, another update that we actually have as well is our proficiency table. So to get to the proficiency table, you will go into your classrooms page, and then you'll select your classroom. So whichever classroom you're kind of working on or working within. And then what we'll do is we will go into the gradebook. And so into the gradebook, I click on the gradebook tab of my classroom. And then up here at the top, we can see that the gradebook is by course or by proficiency. So this is the proficiency table, and we'll pull all of your students' data and information. And so this collects, these are the coding concepts that are covered within all of CodeMonkey. And you can see exactly the level of proficiency of which the students are on. So we can see sequencing and loops. We can see that this teacher is in the intermediate category, and they are a rock star on variables. So we're able to see that a little bit more detail, you know, which concepts are they maybe struggling on for just a little bit more variability. In addition to this proficiency tab, something else that we recently have is under the teacher resources. We just recently launched a new how-to video guide on how to get started. So we do have that right here for you, as well as video tutorials on anything from how to create a classroom and add students to adding students with class codes. These are videos. If you're very visual, this is really great. Maybe you're not so visual. So another place that you can go to is you can click down here in the bottom corner and go to the Help Center. And when you go to the Help Center, you can see that there's a lot of information. There is a Getting Started guide right here for teachers as well. It has everything that you might want it to have in a text-based format. The videos are also attached here as well. So you can see, like, what is the classroom dashboard? When I click on it, it's going to give me a visual of it, and then we'll have some more explanation. Sometimes there's links to other things. It just kind of depends on what you're working on. But what I really like most about the Help Center page is, let's say I want to know what concepts are covered in Coding Adventure. So what I do in Coding Adventure is I type in Coding Adventure, and we can see that in Coding Adventure Part 1, here are all the coding concepts that are listed out. So it will also cover what those coding concepts are. So what is a simple loop? What is a variable? What is an array? And what is a for loop? These are the concepts that we find are a little bit more challenging for both teachers and students when they're working through these courses. And so we wanted to provide some extra support for you. So we do have those in there for you as well. I regularly visit the help page myself. And so there's just a lot of really great information that is in here, like how to turn on super hints, what courses should my students begin with. So there's just a lot of information, you know, to kind of refer to as you go. All right, so that is most of our updates that we have for you today. Talia, do you want to go to, so
Great.
now we're, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I did. We have a great question here.
Okay, sure.
In the Q&A. Lina, do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure.
Question regarding what to do when students finish early their assignments.
Yeah, so we're just going to now obviously move on to the Q&A session of this. So if you have a question that maybe we don't get to, if you just raise your hand, and we'll actually unmute you, and you guys can actually ask us yourselves. So it's nice to hear, you know, the live view of that as well. So if you have a question that we don't get to, just please feel free to answer that. So I'll take this first question here. Sometimes my students finish early on their assignments. What is your advice for me? So a couple of options for you. So within the course itself, I would recommend the students working, if you're working in the Coding Adventure course, I would highly recommend for them to do the skill mode challenges. Skill mode basically is a deeper dive into each coding concept, and they open up as the students work through the concepts themselves. So if they're working on simple loops, they'll have access to the simple loops skill mode challenges as they work through. So they kind of unlock as they're progressing through, because the idea is that they have a deeper, they already have an understanding, and now they're just going to dive deeper into it and have a little bit more practice. So that's one thing I would recommend. And just depending on whichever course you're kind of working on, let's say you're working on maybe the platformer course, now is the time for the students to build and create their own games. There's also the ability for students to build and create their own challenges. Basically, when you pull up a challenge, why this is locked is because I am in Talia's classroom, so I'm only able to see what she is assigned me right now. But the challenge builder here is just a free-form platform for the students to basically, there's no better way for a student to show mastery of a concept than for them to build and create. It's one thing to work through the platform, it's another thing for them to dive deeper into that concept, and they can do that by the challenge builder itself or by the, so those are just some recommendations that I have for you as far as that goes. So let's go back.
I want to add also to Lena's answer regarding the challenge builder, that I see many teachers use the challenge builder, you know, maybe is a bit of a different and creative activity. So say you have your students going through coding adventures throughout the week. I might let them create some challenges on Friday just to maybe change it up a bit, let them bring in their creativity. So I would definitely recommend the challenge builder.
I agree. And I think there's also some different variability that you can do with that. I have seen people use it to create stories and to do different, you know, concepts within other content areas. So there's also that as well. So our next question is, in what order do you suggest that the students work through the courses? So I'm actually going to go to this course page, this course kind of map that we have here. So kind of depending on the grade level of which your student is at. So we do have a scope and sequence. You feel free to reach out to your sales rep and they can send that over to you as well. But let's say my students are in 3rd grade. I recommend them starting with Coding Adventure. And then once they get to like after challenge 30, when they really start getting into variables, is when I recommend that after each coding concept, they complete a challenge, like build their own challenge. And then after that, they would move into the game builder. So they need to at least have finished part 1 of Coding Adventure to be able to really, I find for them to really, unless they have a strong coding foundation, they sometimes will struggle a little bit with the coding concepts that are within game builder. So our recommendation is you would do Coding Adventure, then you would go into game builder. Or if your students are older, you might want to start with Banana Tails and then move into the coding chatbots and kind of have that variability. So it kind of depends on the level of where your students are at. I personally like for all students to do CodeMonkey Junior, just like as a starter. I think it's a good warm up to every class period that you're in. It's really about computational thinking. You're moving the monkey forwards and backwards, and you're doing some different directionality purposes with that. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, so our next question was upgrade. How does this work? And should I use this instead of renaming the classroom? Talia, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly go over the upgrade. It's the upgrade button available in your My Classrooms page. Basically allows you to move over classrooms from one subscription to another. And we usually recommend teachers to use this when they are, let's say they renewed, they have a new subscription, and you want to continue with your classroom. You want to continue with the same 4 students from last year to your new subscription. So instead of creating a new classroom, you want them to have their progress. So you want them to continue with their existing accounts. So you can just move over the classroom to the new subscription by clicking on the upgrade. Basically, if there's a student that you do not want to have continue this year, so you would first archive them, but you have all the instructions here. But basically, I would just choose which subscription I want to move this classroom to, and click the upgrade button. I have some information here about the seats quota, meaning once I move over the students to the new subscriptions, they will take up seats in the new subscription. So that's important to pay attention to. And once I've confirmed the upgrade, you can see that the classroom now is part of the new subscription, and students will be able to access all the content. So I would definitely recommend using the upgrade when you're continuing with classrooms, instead of creating new classrooms and moving just a student one by one. The upgrade is a good, definitely something good to use in these scenarios.
Okay, so I'm gonna take over. Okay, so the next question was, how do I know, and then we'll get to these 2 live questions here in just a minute. How do I know which standards CodeMonkey is aligned to? So there's a couple of ways in which you can find the standard. So one way that you can find the standard is you can go to the teacher resources and pull up the lesson plans that are there. And in the lesson plans themselves, you can click on any one of the lessons. You're able to see the standards that are addressed. If you need specific state standards, you can reach out to your sales rep or to Talia, our customer success manager, and we can get those reports for you as well, something that's a little bit deeper. Another way is when you go to the CodeMonkey homepage, the CodeMonkey.com page, at the very bottom of the page in the footer, there is under curriculum, there is a standards page. So when you click on the standards page, you're actually able to see the standards for the courses. You can also click on a specific course and find the standards there. So those are going to be the CSTA and the ISTE alignment. And then now I'll answer this question here. When can students get their certificates? You have access to the certificates at all times here in the classroom resources. So here you're able to get the certificate and give them out to your students whenever works best for you.
Yeah,
so
I'll just add that definitely worth looking into these. They're cute. They have the courses characters in them. They are currently, you would need to download them. You see, and you can add the student's name and you can add your signature and date. There's currently no automatic process to generate certificates. We've been getting these requests, so hopefully it's something that we will add in the future. But definitely worth checking these out. I think students enjoy getting these, sharing with their parents. So under the teacher resources, check them out.
Yeah, sometimes we have teachers ask as well. So we'll help write out a certificate for you. Sometimes my students don't get the concept after finishing a level and they want to do the previous level again. Can they go back and work again on a previous level? So at any time, a student can go back at any time to their course page, and all they have to do is click on the challenge map. And on the challenge map, we always recommend that the students go back and revisit their challenges. So you click on the story map up here, and at any time the students can go back to any of the previous challenges that they've completed. As a teacher, you have the ability to move around. The students don't, so they can always go back. Their previous solution will always be there, but it will help guide them for, okay, well, what improvement can I make to actually get a 3-star solution? So that's what we would suggest there.
Right, and I'd like to add something from the teacher's point, and Lena, I'm sharing my screen. I just want to add from the teacher's point. So if you're not familiar with our progress tab, please, get to know this page. You have it for each of your classroom. And basically this allows you to really see live how your students are doing. You have here the star grading that we use for some of our courses, especially Coding Adventure. And this allows you to see it. You might go here and check, for example, this is challenge 104. You can see that you have a few students who received only 2 stars. So you can see that this might be a chapter until loops that students are struggling with. So you might want to go back and review this chapter. You can even go and refer to our lesson plans and maybe use the instructions in the lesson plans if you yourself need any guidance, or you can also contact us. But just wanted to point this out because this is a great tool to use to see where your students are struggling, the progress tab.
And you can also go, Talia, you can also go to the gradebook feature, and in the gradebook, at the very bottom of the gradebook, there are circles, and the larger the circle, the more students that struggle with that specific challenge. So it's a really good way for difficulty and, basically understanding mini lessons is what I'm meaning to say with that.
Yeah, and we have here a question, how can students see their own stars? So basically the students can see their stars in the course itself. So for example, I'll share my student screen. Okay, so this is specifically a student who hasn't made much progress, but basically, once I go to a course, I can go through the story mode map where I can my progress. And as I progress, I'll get the stars grading right here, and I can see how I'm doing. Basically, once I finish and once I solve a challenge, I'll immediately get feedback on my solution. I'll get either a 1 star up to 3 stars. If I get only 1 star, I'll get, like Lena said, I'll get some hints on how to help me achieve the 2nd and the 3rd star. So that's where the students can see how they're doing in the course.
And this is the same if they are on any of the courses that we're working on. So they just go to the story map and they'll navigate throughout the story map, excuse me. Okay, so another question that we had was a teacher that was wondering about variables and how to kind of teach variables. So within that, there are some different resources that are available. So I am currently on our CodeMonkey blog page, and I just typed in unplugged activities, and you can see some blog articles that we've done about unplugged activities and different things like that. This is a really good way to find some alternate resources. But there is one here specifically. This one has, I can look for loops or I can look for variables. Anything that's kind of linked here will have an unplugged activity. And so these are just really good ways. The lesson plans have them themselves as well, but here is just another example, maybe in a little bit more detail about how to kind of work with the variable itself. So there is an activity here and it kind of walks you through that. So some just different ways to, find some different unplugged coding activities. These are activities that you could do even remote and distant. I've seen a lot of teachers, maybe you're working on the coding adventure course and the kids have like paper arrows that they've made, like a 1 arrow, and they can kind of move it. And maybe there's like a loop where they can show that they're moving, right or moving left. So there's some different ways to navigate that as well, having them like, which way do we move, and solve a challenge, or you can screenshot a challenge maybe that you want to do and then have the kids kind of, maybe in a Jamboard, put the challenge in there and have it as an assessment piece. How would you solve this challenge? And they can walk it out, walk you through it. So just some different ways to kind of utilize that online, offline variability.
And we have this question, we have a question here. Is this linked to the teacher page so it is handier? Do we have to go to the blog to see it? So
you would have to go to the blog itself. When you're on the CodeMonkey page itself, so here I am and I'm logged into the platform, I would go to the 3 lines in the right-hand corner and I would click on blog. And then you can just search from there. So it's easy to have access to it, but it's not right there underneath the teacher resources, but it is located here for you. So we have different categories as well.
It's a good point, Adrian. I think we did bring this up that it should be added to the teacher resources. I think it's something that will be added to the teacher resources soon, so it will be more handy. But you can still access it through the menu, like Lena showed.
Mm-hmm. And so there's some different just blogs here, like offline coding activities you can look for, or unplugged, game builder, just some different tips and hints. So just some different things. I definitely recommend checking that out. And then the question corner as well, part of the blog, there's some different questions here as well, like drawing your own sprites course. So there's some just different resources that you might not have known about before. Of different ways that you can find it. So we have like a Dodo's map one. There's just different places to kind of check and find out a little bit more information. Is there any competition for students in CodeMonkey? Currently, we don't have a competition right now that we're doing with students. Possibly we'll do one again. We did do a challenge builder competition over during COVID, the initial COVID crisis, the beginning of the COVID crisis. But it's possible that we'll do something again soon.
Great. Does anybody want to ask another question? Does anybody want to ask their question live? Oh yeah, I'm just answering here, Adrian. Yeah, we will be adding the feature of the lesson of the blog to the teacher resources. There's a question regarding grading. We've shown a bit the gradebook tab. Lena showed the new feature which we've recently added, the proficiency tab that shows students proficiency in coding concepts across courses, whereas we have the gradebook that shows students grades within each course. The proficiency tab is more across courses, taking the top coding concepts and showing how proficient each student is in each coding topic. So that's available through the gradebook tab for each classroom. Okay.
And then in the Help Center as well, I'll just share this resource for you as well. You can type in how are the grades calculated. There is a resource here. So it'll tell you exactly how they're scored and then what each star value point is within the gradebook itself, if you're ever wondering about that too.
Yeah, Lena,
how can students build their own game? So students I recommend the students working through each one of the courses. There are 3 courses. There's a platformer, a Frogger, and a draw your own sprite animation course. I recommend the students working through one of the courses and then recreating that course in the Game Builder first. And doing that for each one of the courses, and they can make modifications on what it looks like and whatever, but it is a free form platform here, and it pulls up, and then the students will create their games that way, and they can share them either to our Discover page or they can share them to the classroom, and then once they do, the other students in the classroom can also play them. Something that I always like to share about the Discover platform itself, it is a worldwide sharing platform. There are community guidelines here. Basically, the gist of this is that we make sure that there is no inappropriate things in the game itself and making sure that there is no personal information shared. And we just shared a resource about our Game Builder webinar that we've done as well. But anytime you publish a game or a challenge, it makes a copy of that challenge essentially. And so then if the students try to go in and make a change to it, they can't make that change unless they unpublish and republish, and it will have to go through the approval process through our team.
Okay. I think we'll start wrapping it up unless we get more questions. Lena, do you want to show the last slide on how to get help going forward? Great. Yeah, so if you have any questions for us, you can feel free to contact us at support@codemonkey.com, and somebody from the team will get in touch, or you can also get in touch directly with your CodeMonkey rep. Besides that, we talked about the Help Center and we shared with you some of the articles, but we just go visit, as Lena showed. It's an easy search. You can find a lot of interesting articles. Each article has more, it has links to other relevant articles, so you might learn new things about the platform and how you can use it. So that's the email, that's the URL for the Help Center.
Yep. So if there are nobody wants to jump on live and ask us a question. The Game Builder, I'll just take this one last question, then we'll wrap it up for today. The Game Builder and Challenge Builder do have to be assigned like all other courses. I would not assign it until you're ready for the kids to have access to it, because if it were me personally, just me, I would rather tinker around and create my own things and go through the course itself. And I know that other students probably feel the same way as me, where some people might want to do the course and then do the, you know, vice versa. So I only tend to open things that I'm ready for the students to have access to. So I hope I answered that question for you. We appreciate all of your answers that all of your questions that you've asked for today's webinar. We know that your time, like I mentioned, is so valuable, especially we know you guys are doing even more work than, than normal, if that's possible, but it is. So we just want to thank you guys so much for joining us for today's webinar. If you have any questions about anything at all, please feel free to reach out to us in the team. Once again, thank you so much. And remember to always write code, catch bananas, and save the world. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.